What is going on, guys? There are two primary phases of offseason cuts in the NFL. The first one starts in March before free agency, as teams look to rid themselves of overpaid veterans in order to clear cap space. Once teams address their needs and fill out their rosters at the draft, it becomes clear which players are expendable. That's when the second phase of cuts take place, after the draft. From May up until the start of the season, every year a handful of big-name veterans hit the open market post-draft. These 10 notable players could be among the next series of cuts. Number 10. Tevin Coleman. In the 2019 offseason, the San Francisco 49ers signed Coleman to a 2-year deal worth $10 million. This reunited Coleman with head coach Kyle Shanahan, who previously served as the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. Coleman served as a number 2 for the Falcons behind Devontae Freeman, but unfortunately, he never got his chance to be the go-to guy in San Fran. This is a loaded depth chart that consists of playoff hero Raheem Mostert and veteran Jerick McKinnon. And let's be real, any running back can shine in Shanahan's offense. Coleman performed well with the 49ers, rushing for 544 yards and 6 touchdowns. But the 49ers don't need to be paying this money to a number 2 or 3 running back. McKinnon already agreed to restructure his deal, which suggests the 49ers are happy to keep him around. That makes Coleman the odd man out, so he may soon find himself back on the free agent market again. The 49ers simply don't require 3 quality running backs. It is the most replaceable position in football after all. Number 9. Avery Williamson. The New York Jets signed the veteran linebacker to a 3-year deal worth $22.5 million in the 2018 offseason. The former Tennessee Titans standout performed well for the Jets in 2018, posting a career-best 120 combined tackles, to go along with 6 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 sacks. Coming off perhaps his best year as a pro, Williamson unfortunately suffered a season-ending ACL tear during the 2019 preseason. The Jets had just signed Baltimore Ravens Pro Bowl linebacker CJ Mosley in free agency too. He and Williamson were supposed to form quite the dynamic duo at linebacker, but injuries prevented that from ever happening. The Jets don't need 2 expensive and injury-prone linebackers, and cutting Williamson would only account for $2 million in dead cap. New York has been downright awful at free agent spending over the years. Williamson hasn't been a bust compared to Trumaine Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, or Darrelle Revis, but the Jets really don't need him with Mosley in the fold, so don't be surprised if Williamson hits the open market again before 2020 kicks off. Number 8. Kenny Stills. The Houston Texans receiving core looks a whole lot different. Bill O'Brien made the questionable decision to trade away superstar wideout DeAndre Hopkins while taking on David Johnson's awful contract. To offset the departure of Hopkins, O'Brien signed Randall Cobb and traded for Los Angeles Rams speedster Brandon Cooks. Now, Deshaun Watson has Cobb, Cooks, Stills, and Will Fuller as his top 4 go-to weapons. Stills was good as a number 3 receiver for Houston in 2019, notching 40 receptions for 561 yards and 4 touchdowns. But his role will diminish now, following the pickups of Cobb and Cooks. If healthy, Fuller should slot in as the new number 1 pass catcher. There is no dead money on the books if Houston cuts Stills, who only has 1 year remaining on his deal. The Texans really don't need 4 wide receivers here. It's just not necessary. If O'Brien decides to shed some salary, it makes sense to trade or cut Stills before the start of the season. Houston should still try to find a way to upgrade their leaky offensive line or woeful secondary, and cutting Stills would open that much-needed cap room. Not that Stills should complain if it happens. He could shine as a legitimate number 2 receiver in the right offense. That's just not going to be the case in Houston. Number 7. Mohamed Sanu. The New England Patriots curiously overpaid for Mohamed Sanu by sacrificing a 2nd-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons at the 2019 trade deadline. An ankle injury bothered Sanu for much of the season, and he was unable to get in rhythm with Tom Brady and company. Sanu finished with just 26 receptions for 207 yards and 1 touchdown in 8 games with the Patriots. The former Falcon was an excellent number 2 or 3 option for Matt Ryan in Atlanta's pass-happy offense, but he's in a completely different system run by Josh McDaniels now, which doesn't focus much on the vertical routes and deep balls. Bill Belichick began what appears to be a rebuilding or at least a retooling phase. He let Brady walk in free agency and chose to roll with Jarrett Stidham, rather than sign a veteran like Andy Dalton or Cam Newton. Belichick also moved on from reliable kicker Steven Gostkowski and defensive contributors Kyle Van Noy, Duron Harmon, and Jamie Collins. So does Belichick really want to keep an injury-prone and pricey veteran wideout, now that he's no longer in win-now mode? It wouldn't be surprising if Belichick decided to cut his losses by moving on from Sanu while leaning on Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry to carry the receiving group. Number 6, Jamaal Williams. Aaron Rodgers couldn't have been a happy man when the Green Bay Packers traded up to draft Jordan Love in the first round. Well, we're sure teammate Jamaal Williams was a lot more discontent when the Pack took Boston College running back A.J. Dillon in round 2. These two picks baffled a ton of fans and analysts. Why didn't the Packers address areas of strength in the first 2 rounds? Dillon was a star at Boston College, earning 3 first-team All-ACC selections. But the Packers already have a 1,000-yard running back in Aaron Jones, and Jamaal Williams has been a decent number 2 behind him. As a second running back, Williams has surpassed the 450-yard mark twice. He averaged a stellar 4.3 yards per carry in 2019, and Williams produced nicely in the passing game with 39 catches for 253 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. But Jones is clearly the go-to guy here in Green Bay's backfield, and they obviously value Dillon a ton, having used a second rounder on him. The Packers don't need to carry these 3 running backs, so it wouldn't be the least bit shocking if they decided to cut or trade Williams before the season. This is still a pass-happy offense, so Rodgers really doesn't require all 3 of Williams, Dillon, and Jones. The former looks like the odd man out here. Number 5, Olivier Vernon. The veteran defensive end came over to the Cleveland Browns as part of the 2019 Odell Beckham blockbuster deal. Vernon was coming off his first Pro Bowl season, having recorded 7 sacks with the New York Giants. A knee injury hampered Vernon in his first season with the Browns, forcing him to miss 10 games. He finished with just 3.5 sacks on the season. The Browns' front 7 already consists of superstar pass rusher Myles Garrett and veteran mainstay Sheldon Richardson. They don't need Vernon, who carries a whopping $15.5 million cap hit for 2020. The Browns wouldn't be on the books for any dead cap money if they released Vernon too. So why not cut him and use that cap space to address any other needs, such as the secondary or offensive line? Vernon is unlikely to repeat his previous success with the Giants. It's that simple. The Browns are better off moving on from the expensive veteran. Number 4, Josh Rosen. 2 years after being drafted 10th overall by the Arizona Cardinals, and Rosen still has one of the most uncertain futures of any player in the league. After landing the first overall pick in the 2019 draft, the Cardinals quickly decided to draft Kyler Murray, and Rosen was shipped to the Miami Dolphins. Unfortunately for the UCLA product, Miami kind of decided to tank. And they had Rosen split the starting duties with Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins took Alabama cornerback Tua Tagovailoa with a number 5 selection in 2020, and they decided to keep Fitzmagic for at least another year. The latter will likely open the season as the starter, and Tua should take over at some point. That leaves Rosen as the expendable one in Miami, just as he was in Arizona after they took Murray. The Dolphins never really gave Rosen a chance in the first place, but they certainly won't be starting him in favor of Tagovailoa. There won't be much trade value for Rosen, since the guy only has 16 career starts under his belt, 13 of them being losses. The Dolphins would be lucky to earn more than a 5th round pick for him on the open market at this point. Honestly, what they really should do is just thank Rosen for being classy about the matter, release him, and allow the kid to field new opportunities elsewhere. He's simply too young and talented to be stuck as the number 3 on a team's depth chart. The Dolphins just need to give him a fresh start. Number 3, Tyrone Crawford. The veteran defensive end has spent his entire career with the Dallas Cowboys, but Crawford's tenure with America's team could be winding down. The cap-strapped Cowboys have Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Jalen Smith to keep around long term. They need to clear some cap space, and Jerry Jones could do that by moving on from Crawford. Though he's well respected among the Cowboys coaches, Crawford has never exactly been a star. The Cowboys already have a stout front 7 led by Lawrence, Leighton Vander Esch, and Smith. Releasing Crawford, who's slated to enter free agency after the 2020 season, would only account for $1.1 million in dead money. The Cowboys can't keep everybody here. Crawford, simply put, is a top release candidate to keep an eye on. Number 2, Adrian Peterson. The future Hall of Fame running back looked done in 2017, but the Washington Redskins, of all teams, managed to revive his career after posting 1,042 yards and 7 touchdowns for Washington in 2018. AP followed it up with 898 yards and 5 touchdowns. Given his production and value as a leader in Washington's locker room, it would make sense for the Redskins to keep Peterson around. But new head coach Ron Rivera wasn't the one who signed Peterson to be his lead back, and it's likely he'll rely more on young and promising talents Bryce Love, Antonio Antonio Gibson, and Darius Geis. Does Rivera really want to rely on a 35-year-old to lead his backfield, when his job is to simply rebuild this Redskins team? Thing is, Washington doesn't have much of a reason to keep Peterson if they're going to turn to the younger guys. AP could grow unhappy with this role and demand a trade, and the perennial Pro Bowler deserves the chance to join a team that can bring him a Super Bowl ring. That simply won't happen in Washington. So, unless Rivera is fully intent on using Peterson as his lead back, it makes perfect sense for Washington to release him and allow AP to chase a ring. Number 1. Alshon Jeffery. The veteran wideout played an instrumental role in helping the Philadelphia Eagles win Super Bowl 52, but injuries and age have started to catch up to Jeffery, who no longer looks like a suitable number 1 receiver. Jeffery was limited to 10 games in 2019 due to several injuries. He only caught 43 passes for 490 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Eagles don't really need Jeffery at this stage. They already have a deep group of pass catchers that includes veteran speedster Deshaun Jackson, second-year talent J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, rookie Jalen Reagor, Pro Bowl tight end Zach Ertz, and another standout tight end in Dallas Goedert. Not to mention they have a stud running back in Miles Sanders. Philly really doesn't need that much pass catchers. Jeffery's cap hit of just over $15.446 million in 2020 is too high, and it increases to approximately $18.536 million in 2021. If the Eagles can't find a taker for Jeffery on the trade market, they're better off releasing him. He's no longer their top pass catcher at this point. And again, injuries and age have caused him to regress. Fantasy football players and NFL fans in general may like Alshon Jeffery the name, but Alshon Jeffery the player is a realistic offseason release candidate. So keep an eye on this one, because you never really know. What other big name NFL players could be released before the start of the 2020 season? Join me in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and TPS on social media. We post great content all the time: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything. Go find us. Go do all that stuff. If you like this video, give it a like. It takes one click down below, and subscribe to TPS. We post videos every day. Every day is a new video. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo. I'll see you next time.
My knee.